Okay, I want to spend a second talking about how to write an equation when you're given various pieces of information. So first thing that we need to know before we get started is our basic equation formula, and this is called our slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. That's where the m represents your slope and the b represents your y-intercept. Now this is important because this is what we're going to use to write all of the equations that we're about to see here, and this is kind of the next form that we're really getting into. So I'm going to start with this problem that we have right here. It tells me that the slope is -5 and the y-intercept is 0, -10. That's as a point. So when I'm looking at these kind of equations, I want to say, alright, well, what's my m, what's my b? Remember, m is the slope. That will also be the coefficient of your line. In this case, my slope is -5. So my m is -5. My y-intercept is 0, -10. Now I can't use both of these numbers, so I want the value of the y value at my y-intercept, and that's -10. So this b is going to be -10. Now sometimes you may see it where it says your y-intercept actually equals -10. You can see it as a point, you can see it as a number. So once we have this set up right here, now we're ready to write our equation. Well, we said our formula was y equals mx plus b. So now that I know these numbers, I'm just going to rewrite it with what I know. I know that m is -5, and I know that b is -10. Now I can do plus -10, but we usually don't like to have two signs right next to each other like that. So I'm actually going to rewrite this one more time as 5x minus 10, because adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. Okay, so let's take a look at another example we have here. Sometimes they're going to give you the m and they may give you a point. Now what I like to do is whenever I have a point like this, I like to make a table, because that's going to help me kind of organize my ideas. So I have my x, I have my y, and my x value is 7, my y value is 77. So I just put this point into my table. Now, I'm still looking for my m and my b. I know that my m is 14, so that lets me start writing my equation. Because remember, my m is my slope or my coefficient. So I can start with y equals 14x. Anytime you have the slope, you can start out writing your equation just like that. Now, knowing that's important, because now I can bring that up to my table, and I can say, alright, I know I'm going to have to take 14 times my x values. That means I'm going to do 14 times 7. Okay. When I'm looking at that, now I can start to kind of do my math and see what happens here. Well, 14 times 7 is going to be 98. Now, I want it to equal 77. So I need to figure out, well, what do I need to do to 98 to turn it into 77? Well, I know I'm not going to be adding. I've already done my multiplication, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to be subtracting that. So I'm actually going to be doing, let's see, from 98 to 77 is going to give me minus 21. And there is the rest of my equation. So using that table, we're able to finish off and write my whole equation. Okay, so when you have a point, put it on the table, use that slope as your coefficient, and see what do I need to add or subtract to get to my y value. Okay, let's look at a different type we may see. Sometimes they're going to give you a graph. Again, when they give you a graph, I'm trying to find my m, I want to find my b. Now, on a graph, the b value is your y-intercept. So I can see that right here on my graph. And again, it's the value. This point would be 0, -2. So my b value is -2. Now, I need to find my slope. My slope, if you think back to our slope video that we did, we want to find what is the rise over the run. So I have 2 points, and I'm going to make my slope triangle. Let me get this in a brighter color so we can see that really well. Here's my slope triangle here, and I want to say, okay, what did I do? How many did I go up? How many did I go over? Now, I know that this line is a negative slope because from the left to the right I'm going down, so that tells me my slope is going to be a negative number. Now I'm going to look and say, okay, what did I do to go up? Well, I went up 1, and I went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 1 over 5, my rise is 1, my run is 5, and there is my slope, negative 1/5. So now that I have my m and my b, I can write my equation. I can write y equals negative 1/5 x minus 2. Remember, I could do plus negative because that b is a negative 2, but I can just do a subtraction. And there's my equation. So when you have a graph, you're looking for the y-intercept, and you're looking for your slope. What's your rise and what's your run? The last example I'm going to see is when we have just 2 points. That's all they've given us. Again, since I have coordinates, I like to make a table. So I'm going to go ahead and make my table to set things up with my x's and my y's. I'm going to go ahead and put these in my table. I have 21, 9, and negative 6, 0. Well, let's look at what, when we have a table, we've done this before, we need to find our delta y and our delta x. Now my change in y is minus 9. My change in x, I know I'm subtracting. It's going to be minus 21 to get to 0, then minus 6 more. So that's minus 27 over here. Now I'm ready to find my rate of change. Delta y over delta x. I have negative 9 over negative 27. Since these are both negatives, they're going to turn into positives. 2 negatives make a positive. And I can reduce this if I divide both of these by 9. That's going to give me 1/3. And this is now my rate of change, which is actually also the same thing as my m value. So, remember I said earlier that when you have your m, you can start your equation. 1/3 x is what I have here now. So with 1/3 x, I can bring that up to my table. And I can go through and I can say, all right, let's start plugging things in. And let's see what my constant or what my b value is going to be. So I want 1/3 times 21. I can do this down here by hand. Times 21. I'm going to put the 21 over 1 because that's the same thing. I can turn my whole number into a fraction by doing that. 21 times 1 is 21. 3 times 1 is 3. Now I have 21 divided by 3, which is 7. Now I want it to equal 9 right here. So I need to say, well, what do I do to 7 to equal 9? I add 2. I test it out over here. Test it out the second one. Let's see if it's still true. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And so I have my equation now of y equals negative 1, or excuse me, y equals 1/3 x plus 2. So that hits all the different ways that you're going to see equations and writing equations come out as you're working with it.